Hello, everyone. My name is Gesa Netzeband, and I'm Managing Director of DGMK, the German Society for Sustainable Energy Carriers, Mobility and Carbon Cycles. I have the honor and the pleasure to talk to women in the energy sector, with women who are deeply engaged, highly experienced, and are active in shaping energy transition. I'm looking forward to inspiring stories, thoughts, and ideas. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Anne-Mette Cheese. She's an absolute subsurface expert with huge experience in the oil and gas business and deep knowledge on almost any basin in the world. She is currently Senior Advisor Subsurface with Gas Nova. Hallo, Mette.
Hallo, Gesa.
So you studied petrology and geology and worked with phase diagrams and isotope analysis and mineral chemistry. So really hardcore analytics. So when I think of geology, I rather associate field trips and rocks, being in the outdoors, curious landscapes. So how come this hardcore lab science intrigued you so much?
Well, I don't know if it initially intrigued me. I think it's rather a coincidence that I ended up in the geochemical part of geology. In Denmark, where I'm from and where I studied, at that point, geology study is a very long study. It was nominated for 6 years. And through those many years, you have to go through every discipline of geology, and then the last 1 or 2 years specialize. And by the point when you have to specialize, it's everything is quite interesting in geology, right? So it's actually quite difficult to choose. So I think what most people chose was actually taking sort of the lead from professors they like, who was motivating to you, or who has gone that extra mile to actually motivate you. So I actually did not start up in geochemistry. I started up in glacial geology. Unfortunately, very shortly after I started specializing in that, I've always been quite fascinated by glaciers and the movements, but then unfortunately my supervisor, he died of cancer. So and there were some of his colleagues who then would take over, but I was just at this point, no, it was him who was motivating for me, so I'll do something completely different. And the most different I could think of at that point was phase diagrams and geochemistry. So I went over to the dark side there, and well, I was not disappointed. There was no return from that. It was as when you start to get into any topic, it's interesting, and this turns out to be exactly me. So yeah, it was coincidence, but also no regrets. So yeah.
Wow, a complete turn then in your early days.
Yeah, I know. It could have been anything, but it happened to be that.
Oh, sounds like you hit your lucky pot in a way. So then you moved to Austria and you did your PhD in Graz, and you still keep teaching courses in geochemistry there and also in Frankfurt in Germany. Did teaching come easy to you? So how were your first lectures?
Oh,
changing sides.
Yes, actually, I think teaching came easy to me. I really enjoy these courses that I'm still teaching, both in Germany and in Austria. I just very much like to explain things that I am very motivated by to people, and it gets me going. But my first lectures, well, I was obviously extremely nervous. And I was just sitting up late night trying to anticipate whatever I could be asked, and if I could answer it. But you quickly realize that no one asks these questions, because you need to see the big picture in order to even get to these questions. And also I realized it's really okay to say, I do not know. I will look it up, or interesting question, and then get a discussion going about that. And I think that is why you are the teacher, really, I think, because you see the bigger picture, you see the skeleton, and everyone can ask difficult questions, but it's more to guide the student into trying to deduce the answer themselves, because you have the bigger picture, and then enable that bigger picture to be seen. So I'm quite relaxed about teaching now, and I really enjoy it, and I really look forward to my teaching weeks. So it's always been done like that. That it's made like a week intensive courses, so that I can do my normal job next to it. But that week it gets very intensive, and I really love it. And it's just so nice still to have that foot with the academics.
So if you like teaching and you continued your career into a postdoc phase in Würzburg then, and then another 2 years back in Graz. So how come you left academia after this long time in research?
Yes, I did go the very long way in research, and was kind of aiming for a career that way. And I think what happened is I got children. Just, I don't know, it was a lot of things happening, and you're just thinking maybe maybe I need something more stable, in a sort of way. Not that the university is not stable, but there is a lot of, especially financial constraints, applying for research grants, and I was just actually at a point starting to think, what about pension? What about, being more stable for the kids? So I think that was what that was what made me go away. But again, and with the teaching, I still have one foot in the door there, and still continue. And I also still have both master and bachelor students. So I kind of still have something of that world, which I very much enjoy. But it was a wish to try something else, and try and actually maybe also use geology and all the things that I have learned in a more practical way, instead of just theoretical. And it was a big shock for me to come out into the industry after having spent decades at the university. And I remember my first job, they actually gave me weekly courses to de-academize me, if you can say that, so that I should be not so theoretical, but actually put it into a practical focus. So it was quite a steep learning curve, not in the knowledge as such, but in the applicability of geology, that all of a sudden it wasn't about writing papers anymore. It wasn't about teaching. It wasn't so theoretical. It was here in the industry you can actually see, but if I do this, it is not a paper of we think and on one hand and this might prove. No, here you saw whether it was proven. You got the result in a sort of very practical way, and I actually loved that. So yeah, but I think it was the children who did it. And I would like to add here that it was actually quite difficult for me to make that jump from academia and to the industry. And I was told at that point in many interviews that people did not wish someone who had such a long education, that it actually rather spoke a bit against me. But well, yeah, I made the jump, so I did manage in the end.
I would imagine you were a very diligent student in picking up the industry approach and strategy.
No, that was fun, and it was again. I have not regretted that move either. So it's has been very fulfilling.
Yeah. So since you're still in both worlds, what is more within your personality? More the highly detailed research, or more the big picture, the quick decision?
That is definitely the big picture and the quick decisions. However, as one of my industry mentors told me, in order to be able to take these big decisions, you need to be specialist in almost everything, and then you need the experience, and then it just all comes together, and then you can take those quick decisions because you have the analogs, because you have the skeleton, the overview over it. So being able to take quick decisions and just sort of, we always had this saying in one of the job project, the human Hoover approach, that you just suck in all the data, and then you turn them in your head and they come out as an idea, as something you can practically use. You need to have your background in order, and that background is detailed research. But I love this, for example, going to data rooms in the oil and gas industry, where you're basically being locked in a room, and then you have to have an idea about what all the data tells you, and you have limited time. It's like a quiz, and try and get it all together, and then you just have to trust yourself that you have seen this before. I have been in other parts of the world where it looked the same, and maybe you could use that. So you have the experience, but you also have the knowledge of very small pieces of this big puzzle. So which enables you to, you almost don't even need to think. Someone says to you, is this good? And there's a lot of small wheels in your brain that just turns, yes, it is. And first, when you start to analyze afterwards, why was that? Then it comes up, because I've seen that, because I know this, because it just all comes together. But it's definitely, I love the quick decisions. Some of them might also be very wrong, but hey, you're learning. But that was a part of the oil and gas industry that I really, really liked.
You just mentioned this moment when you think, I've seen this before. You've looked into carbon capture and storage, into CCS, which is a big thing now again, but you already looked into this back in 2008. And then you went again back to the classic upstream topics like exploration, new ventures, and now you're back. So what has changed within these 14 years almost?
So my first job in the industry after university, that was exactly because of my knowledge of geochemistry, and especially the containment of CO2 in a reservoir in the subsurface for CCS. That is actually a bit different than what we normally do in oil and gas, because here you also do have to look at the geochemistry, because CO2 can be corrosive. So you have some reactive fluid flows happening. So that was actually what I was employed to do in my first job, to actually use that geochemistry that I knew, to look at how CO2 could change the physical parameters of a reservoir rock. And in 2008, that was when the first sort of step to new energy took place, where at that point it was said we need to be carbon free by 2020. That was the big cry at that time. So, but and I worked on a lot of CCS projects, both in some of the first projects in Germany, and I worked on some of the first projects in the UK. And all of these projects, I also worked a few on some in India and outside Europe, but common for all of these projects was that it was, at that point in time, it was a battle uphill. There was, as there also is now, problems with the legislation surrounding it, the financing mechanisms of it, and also it was kind of, although the techniques are not unknown, but it was kind of unknown as an industrial technique. So all of these projects, they went down one way or the other, not because of technical issues, but because of all the things around it. And I think when my fifth project went down, I just I didn't give up. I just thought I needed a break. So I went back into exploration, new ventures, and business development. And then time changed. I mean, the problems are still there: legislation, financing mechanisms, etc. But will to make this happen has changed, and there are legislation coming out now around the world and to enable this. It's the financing mechanisms are also getting in place, and there is will now, a political will, and also a huge will from the general population to actually make this happen. So this has changed. So I thought, well, should we give it another try? See if we can get just one project ahead. And I think it is going to happen now. I think that the world has changed in many aspects, but it's not 2020 anymore. Now it's 2050. But I think it will happen in 2050. I have to believe in it. I There's the motivation. So. But I see a lot of things has changed around it, especially around the legislation and the political will to make this happen.
So it was indeed a break, and you did come back.
I did
to
come
CCS.
back.
Yeah, you have an impressive career with so many different jobs and in so different fields in a way. So what makes a job interesting for you? How do you come to this point that you think, I really, really want to make a move now and do something new?
I think for me, it is, I've always said to myself, my job, and I've been lucky that it has been like that. I want a job that I love so much, that is so interesting to me, that I would do it for free. You know, it's kind of the criteria. Of course, you need the financial aspects of it. But in general, if the job is something that really interests you, and for me, especially where you feel you make a difference, that is important for me, that I feel that what I do is useful, then it is sort of a personal boost, and it gets you very, very motivated and engaged. Then, of course, having been different places, you know, I have been in jobs where I did not think that the work I did, it just was, you're just arbitrarily working on something because some managers tells you to do that, but the project doesn't lead to anything. It's not motivating. So for me, I mean, the work needs to be interesting, but it also needs to be useful. You want it to be useful. You want to make a difference, really. And I find often this is guided by good management as well, to give you that feeling. So if you have a very, very good manager, I mean, you'll definitely want to stay there forever. And also if you have good working colleagues. I've also tried to be places where you have a kind of a toxic environment, and that is not nice, because that kills that little flame of motivation that you have. But if you are in an environment where people believe in what they're doing, where you see you make a difference, and where it is fantastic management, I mean, that's basically a dream job for me. Yeah.
Nothing to add. I can totally relate to this.
Yeah, you completely agree.
Yeah. You see me nodding. Yeah, you have moved places so many times and lived in so many countries. How much are you actually still connected to Denmark, where you come from? And which place would you call home now?
It will always be Denmark. I am homesick every day, and I left Denmark in '98, so I have basically, now again the mental maths here. So I've basically been living abroad for 24 years, different countries, and I always want to go back. And when I first left Denmark, I thought this is just a matter of I do my PhD and then I come back, and then I didn't. Then 1 year took the other. But I feel at home in Denmark. I am Danish. That is my culture. I'm in very close contact with my family, and luckily living within Europe, it's not that far away, so we see each other often. I think it would also be actually now at this point difficult for me to come back to Denmark, because you have experienced so much, and you have friends in many places of the world. And once you have lived a place and really integrated yourself there, incorporated yourself there, then you get friends, and then moving away from those places, that's very, very hard, and it eats some of your heart away, because you also feel a belonging there. so my heart is kind of scattered all over Europe, but the biggest part of my heart is Danish, if we can say it that way.
Yeah, another personal question. You have worked in E&P and in renewables, in academia, and in several countries. So, in your experience, which place is the most open to gender diversity? What is it that makes a difference?
Again, here, I think like with CCS, I think the world has changed. So what it was 20 years ago, there was a lot of much more gender diversity, especially in the places I have been. And I think that also comes from that I have often been the only girl in many of the positions I've been in. And you feel it, but the world has changed now, and there is a huge focus on it. So I think it's probably the way it is today is not how it was, so it is changing. So I can't say that at present day I know of any problems with the gender diversity in the places I've been, and especially Germany. They're very, very good at that. There is a huge förderung for women, actually. I think all in all, however, I think London and England is probably one of the best places I've been with regard to that. But I think it comes from that London is so multicultural anyway. I mean, in London, I've really worked with British people. I mean, we've been like 19 nationalities all from all over the world. And London is that, a big pot of different nationalities. So there isn't that much racial discrimination there, and also not gender discrimination. So I think, but I think it comes from the size of London. So it's more smaller places where I think I have experienced it. Now I don't want to mention where, but I have come across it. So, but I also think when I have come across it, I have spoken up about it, because and I think you need to do that. You need to say, hey, I do not find this is fair, that I'm being treated that way next to the guy next to me. And I think most of the times I've realized it's not that people do it on purpose. They're just not aware of it. So just speaking up about it and saying, hey, I think you are a bit biased here, then people are, yeah, you're right, I think I am, so sorry. So it's so it's important to talk about it, but I also think there is such a big focus on these issues now, and the world is changing for the better, step by step. So yeah.
I agree. It's
Yeah.
yeah, being conscious about it makes a huge difference.
Yes, and to dare to speak up about it. If you and that's not just about gender diversity, it's about a lot of things. You have to put words to how you're feeling, and if you think something is unfair, and shine a light on it, and it then often solves itself, really. Just sometimes it's just that people are unaware of that you feel that way.
Well, I guess that's the perfect answer to what would have been my last question. If you could give women in energy, our audience, one piece of advice, what would it be? So is this your piece of advice? Speak up.
Yeah, but that is so extremely difficult to give a good advice. What works for me might not work for others, but I think especially women in energy, I think what I have experienced, and especially here in the energy transition, it is, I see a lot of people are very thinking a lot about, but I can only do that, I can only do oil and gas, but no, you can't. All of the geology skills, all of the natural scientific skills, the engineering skills, they are so transferable. And I think it is just a matter of seeing the opportunities and knowing how much you actually can do. All we do in natural science, I mean, we're doing the data crunching. We are handling enormous amount of data that we sort in our head and spit out and make order to. We do project management, and then of course we can also on top of that do all the technical. So I think it's a matter of sort of think you can do more than you actually think you can yourself, because skills that women in natural science have, they are very, very widely applicable, and especially here in the energy transition. So I think some advice is, just trust that you can do it, really. and again, if you believe in it, do it. That is the best driver, I find.
Well,
I don't know if that
Mette.
was an advice, but it was.
Sounds like pretty good advice to me. Thank you very much, Mette, for this interview.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.